Come. Una welcome to my opinion, your opinion, where we dey discuss ogbonge matter as e dey happen, as e dey trend. For a while now, Doyin Okupe, the former DG of Labour Party presidential campaign team, they been convict am say im been do small fraud. In fact, no be small fraud, na very big fraud wey dey over 700,000 naira, 700 million naira. Wey dem talk say na EFCC been charge am, say im no be allow the money to go through financial institution, that is bank. Say im be collect am for cash, which is against the money laundering act wey dem bin mention, and so that the name no go come spoil Peter Obi campaign issue in contender resignation. E no stop there. Even though dem bin convict am, e no bin go prison because im bin produce that 13 million naira wey dem talk say make im pay as fine or make im go 2 years imprisonment. Im bin no go. Im come resign so that Peter Obi fit go ahead to do im campaign. No wan spoil it. Im talk say im don go too far for am to watch as Peter Obi team go spoil. As if matter no end there, Peter Obi also come respond say oga me, you my elder brother, you been do too well oh. In fact, this campaign no go complete if I no mention all the sacrifice wey you been don start from the beginning. As you don push this matter reach this level, now you will see, and we appreciate you, we thank you, but we also pray that the judiciary go give you opportunity to clear your name wey they don be spoil. As see the thing no come do, they come bring the person of Kenneth Okonkwo, wey also be media person to Peter Obi campaign team in the among the PCC. They come decide to address the matter explicitly. In fact, they ask some ogbonge question where we say Bobo was standing strong to make sure say in deliver. You need to hear the questions where they ask them and how you take answer. Surely it be like say Labour Party, despite the internal crisis where they go on, Bobo know wetin dey happen, and they want tell Nigeria say nothing mega, nothing shaking, no shaking. PCC and Labour Party still dey upward. Hear wetin dem talk. I beg my people, make una no forget to subscribe to our channel as well. Click on the red subscribe button beside and I go see the bell notification icon. Make una help me click on too. And make una no forget to like, share and comment for the video. Comment. Make we watch the video, I beg.
So, for a few hours before he resigned, the Director General of the Peter Obi presidential campaign was a convicted criminal. How is the campaign and the Labour Party reacting to that ineluctable, inescapable fact?
Oh, well, having read and listened to your submissions before now, I am of the opinion that you have not read the judgment. Because if you have read the judgment, you wouldn't have the same opinion.
It wasn't my opinion.
No, I said the judgment. I'm talking now as a lawyer.
Right.
First of all, the whole aim of the Money Laundering Act was to facilitate the implementation of the recommendation of the Financial Action Joint Task Force on anti-money laundering and combating terrorism. Doyin Okupe was not found guilty on corruption. He was not found guilty on stealing. He was not found guilty on misappropriation of funds. He was not found guilty on terrorism. He was not found guilty on money laundering. The judge actually used the adjectival phrase, honest mistake. Meaning that Doyin Okupe, when he was the special senior assistant to the president, accepted money in excess of what the individual is allowed by Section 2(1) of the Money Laundering Act, which limited it to 5 million to individual, 10 million to a corporate body. He accepted money from the office of the National Security Advisor on the authority of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Doyin Okupe simply went to the president and told him the money he needed to use to run his office, and it was approved that he should come under the National Security Advisor, and he was accepting the money from the National Security Advisor, and the vouchers were there. That was why the judge reached the inescapable conclusion that it was an honest mistake. Why was it an honest mistake? Because it is an infringement on a law that has strict liability. In other words, your intention is irrelevant. So the actus reus of the element of the crime is that he accepted money. But here is the catch. The law said individual or corporate body. The law has not definitely said when you're acting in your capacity as the senior special assistant to the president, when you're acting in your office, not in your individual person. Are you guilty? The learned judge has delivered his judgment. They are on appeal to talk on that particular issue, because Doyin Okupe acted in his capacity as the senior special assistant to the president, not in his individual capacity. And that is why the judge made it clear, look, you are not corrupt by any means, but is it not gratifying that when it has to do with Labour Party, we talk about honesty, even in the mistake? What do you compare it with the other parties? Permit me to move into...
Well, but before we get into the other parties,
Good.
Let's kind of clear the air, because this is hanging over the Labour Party, and let's not deflect attention from it, even though your explanation
Yes.
at the outset appears to be, and I emphasize the word appears to have elements of plausibility to it, but the fact remains that Doyin Okupe has been convicted of a crime for which he could have gone to jail for 2 years, and for which he has ostensibly paid a fine.
Good. I want to let you know
Right.
that even in that act, when you go to the bank, you have the choice of collecting cash in excess of the limits of the law. The only thing is that you have to voluntarily pay the fine associated with it. So when the judge was giving him an option of fine, it's actually what the law allows. Because if I go to law, to the court, if I go to the bank, I can collect money in excess of the cash allowed. But I would just need to pay the fine. That's why I'm telling you that there's no corruption here.
Yeah, but you have to be. Let's just be clear
Good.
on this. We're
Yes.
not trying to make a meal out of it.
No,
we
let's
want
put
to be
it this
very
way.
clear
Yes.
on what happened and what the implications
Good.
are.
Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
The sentencing is you should pay fine because you have exceeded
No,
the
he was
limit.
given an option. of
No,
paying.
that's what I'm saying. Put it this way. You should pay fine because you exceeded the limit. In default of paying the fine, you will go to jail for 2 years.
Right. Well, that's
Good. And you know the
neither
beauty of
here.
it.
I mean,
Doyin Okupe, being a classical honorable man, even when there was no corruption issue against him, he still resigned. You don't find such honorable men in Nigeria.
well, the point I'm trying to make
They are limited
is,
in
right.
supply.
But when you say he resigned, I mean,
Yes.
was he pushed or did he?
No, he wasn't. We are in New York doing our rally. No meeting has been held over this issue. The principal simply said he's moving on without distraction. Who will push him? No. The court has already told you. This is not about corruption. This is not about misappropriation of funds.
No, but can I?
This is
can
not
I-
about
yeah,
stealing.
But can I make a point here? Because if you talk about 5 million naira
Yes.
and 10 million naira,
Yes.
that's a long way away from more than 700 million naira.
No, that's where you got it wrong.
Well, that's the point
Yes.
we're trying to clarify.
Good. No, it was like the cumulative. It was broken into. It's just like saying in a month you're entitled to receive 10
Yeah, but he
million.
wasn't getting. He
10
wasn't
million
getting like
naira?
10 million
Don't-
naira, was he? He was getting much more than that.
No. I'm just explaining to you what happened. It's like I need 10 million naira to run my office monthly. And remember, the law is that you won't collect more than 5 million in cash. Get the point? So each month he collects any money more than 5 million in cash, he has offended.
Yeah, but why
in the
did
law.
he have to
That's why
collect
you
it in
saw
cash in any
so
case?
many.
But why did he have to collect it in cash? I don't understand.
You have just brought me to the issue while we are talking that PDP is very incompetent because that happened in PDP regime. You can imagine a party that could not even educate its officers at that level, the legal implications of what they are doing. Doyin Okupe is not a lawyer. That is why the judge is saying, sorry, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. He's not a lawyer.
Yeah,
Kenneth Okonkwo
well-
is. PDP could not even educate its officers at that high level. That is why people should avoid the living of the PDP. Jesus Christ warned his disciples, avoid the living of the Pharisees. Everybody should avoid anything that has to do with such a party that is so incompetent and so incoherent in the implementation of its policies. That's why Okupe got into problem. You hired people, you do not train them on the consequences of the law, You gave them cash yourself. They simply accepted it. They did what you told them to do by law and by the authority of the president, and then you're bringing them to law. But it's important we point out this. EFCC has been so quick in doing this. A Bola Tinubu carried bullion van in cash at the eve of an election publicly. And the EFCC has not even had the temerity of investigating that and asking him questions. Do you know what he used bullion van for? Tinubu has openly confessed what he uses it for. He said to his followers, power is not served a la carte. Power is not served in a restaurant during breakfast. You fight for it at all costs. You snatch it, you grab it, you run with it. What do you fight for? What do you grab? Ballot boxes. That's what he uses the bullion van for. The cash, openly. Nobody has even investigated that. And APC had the temerity of choosing such a man to be the APC presidential candidate.
So based on what
don't you think
saying,
it's time that he resigns?
Well, it's not for me to express my own opinion.
Good.
But based on what you're saying,
yes,
you're a lawyer. Is there any way that this case can be seen, this Doyin Okupe case,
yes,
as politically motivated, or is it a scrupulously clear case where the law has been properly applied to the facts?
Good. You know, one of the 7 points agenda that my principal has is restructuring the polity through effective legal and institutional reforms that will aggressively fight corruption, reduce cost of governance, entrench rule of law, and ensure the establishment of an honest and efficient civil service. And so when it comes to rule of law, my principle has zero tolerance to any breach of the law, no matter how small.
Right.
That is why I'm not here.
That is
why I'm not here to defend my DG. Right. I'm here to explain facts.
Right. So you'd recognize that there is a breach
what I am telling you,
there. Right.
As long as the law is concerned, they are on appeal. And when you're on appeal, the judgment is regarded as preliminary, subject to the decision of the appeal court. Yeah. But I'm trying to tell you that in Labour Party, our aim, which is a new Nigerian personality that will be transparent and committed to the rule of law, would not allow us to do anything that would suggest that we will support anything that has to do with the breach of law. If you go to page 13 of our manifesto, you will see where my principal made an express commitment to swiftly, firmly, and fairly prosecute criminals, bandits, terrorists, to end impunity. What you're having in Nigeria now is impunity because of lack of these processes. My principal has made it clear that he is going to give fair and transparent dispensation of justice hinged on rule of law. Page 13 of our manifesto, the best manifesto so far. Now, coming to lay political ambush. This is what this is. Why? This case started 2018, and then for 4 years, the EFCC could not reach judgment, and on the eve of election, you're coming with a judgment.
So you think it's politically motivated?
Let's say it is a political ambush. Good. You know, if you do the right thing, okay, if you have been following American politics, you will agree with me that 6 months to the time, any politically sensitive case is suspended until after the election. That is the convention there. Has this been followed here? So it's a political ambush. But you know what? No, we don't have anything to worry, because the best they have gotten is that the man made an honest mistake. But look at PDP. We have President Obasanjo, who happened to be the only principal that Atiku Abubakar ever served on as a political appointee. He said Atiku Abubakar is one of the most corrupt human beings on earth. The only principal that can appraise him. And you know what is happening? Wike said Ayo is the most corrupt national chairman on record. He said he collects billions of naira.
Yeah.
Good. And that Atiku is aware of it. Has he resigned? So when you talk about comparison, the worst of Labour Party is still better than the best of PDP and APC combined.
But you do know that there is, I mean, you've talked quite volubly about the court of law and
yes,
the processes of the law. But you know that there are two things here, particularly because we're in a political season. That there is the law courts which specialists like yourself are more familiar with, and then there's the court of public opinion.
Absolutely.
Can the P2B carefully constructed edifice remain standing and unscathed after this Doyin Okupe calamity? Is it powerful enough, that edifice, to withstand what some have called a cratering shock?
By the combined effects of the actions of Doyin and P2B and Labour Party, this incident has actually promoted and rocketed us to the enviable position of the number one. Now, a court of law used the adjectival phrase honest mistake, and yet Doyin, without pressure from anybody, resigned. Have you seen that from PDP? Have you seen that from APC? You see, P2B is still the only option. Labour Party is still the only option. And Doyin Okupe, bless him, has done one thing that is very scarce in the Nigerian society. So this particular event has really set a record that PDP and APC are now frightened, because we will ask them how many of them have resigned. I just gave you an example of Ayu, that a governor in PDP said is the worst and the most corrupt national chairman, and has vowed that Ayu will never lead a campaign in his state. Has Ayu resigned? Look at that. And I've told you that Bola Tinubu openly carried bullion van. Bullion van is used to carry cash from one bank to the other, but he carried it at the eve of election, and yet APC considered such a man to be their presidential candidate. No, people like that deserve the prison, not the presidency.
Yeah, but their argument would be that if you have the evidence against him, why don't you file a charge or file a complaint with the EFCC?
I have said this. You don't use oral evidence to contradict objective reality. The bullion van was there for everybody to see, and the man was not denying it. The picture was there for everybody to see on that same day. As a matter of fact, he defended it, that it was his money and he has the right to use it anyhow. And he has told you what he used the money for, like I told you. He said, fight for power at all costs, snatch it, run with it, grab it. That's what he uses the cash in the bullion van to do.
But the problem here,
you know what my principal says? He will prefer to lose doing the right thing,
right,
to doing the wrong thing and winning.
Yeah, well,
that's what, get a better candidate.
That's what, whether it's your candidate or any other candidate, that's what we hope the candidates will do and adopt. But the problem here is that Mr. B has, as you yourself have said, presented himself as a break with those same previous leaders that you were talking about.
Very well.
Who are associated by, association with things like corruption or irregularities, let's put it that way. So however you spin it, this is likely to deal a major blow to Mr. B, because Mr. Okupe was one of his key allies.
Those are your words, not even the words of the court.
Well, I'm putting, that's why I said there's a court of public opinion. We're not talking about the court. We're talking about the public are going to, the court isn't going to vote for him. The public are going to vote in 2023.
Now you will even have better point when you're talking about court of law. When you're talking about court of public opinion, can't you see the beauty that the person you can even compare in LP with the other presidential candidate is our DG? Meaning that P2B is not only that he's not corrupt, he's incorruptible. And so he's not comparable with the presidential candidates of the other parties. So whenever you're talking about corruption, you just have to look down for people who can make honest mistakes just because human beings are not God. But when you talk about corruption, the Oba of Bini looked at my principle and said, your integrity goes before you. My principle is a man that wouldn't even accept plot of land that is due to him as a former governor. He wouldn't even accept pension due for him. Lagos State used its own liaison office here in Abuja to compensate Tinubu after being governor, after they made the elaborate pension scheme law. So can you compare? No, you don't compare my principle with Atiku or Tinubu. When you talk about anything that is misappropriation, you can say that some people in Labour have made honest mistake by the judgment of the court. Have you ever seen honesty added to those two gentlemen? Go to the court of public opinion. You wouldn't find it. A Tinubu and Atiku. Atiku will go to the north and tell the northerners, please, vote only the north. And he will go to the east and say, I am your surest way to the presidency. A man who publicly admitted that is the turn of the South is to present the next president. And he usurped forcefully and by monetary inducement. Don't take my words for it. Take the words of Hayatuddin, a presidential aspirant of PDP for it. He said the PDP primary was obscenely monetized. So when a man like that who bought his own ticket by the confession of them, remember what my principal did. He said PDP is now a stumbling block to his aspiration for a new Nigeria, and that was why he left. So do you compare such a manipulator and then such an intimidator in Tinubu, who will tell if anybody says there will be a change of government, tell the person shut up, who will tell you mentioning the name of Funka Akindele irritates him, an intimidator. So my principle is an inspirator. He will tell you, don't vote for me because I'm Igbo. Vote for me because I'm a man of character, competence, and capacity.
Well,
it is the turn of Nigerians in 2023, not the turn of anybody. An inspirator in 2023. We will not succumb to the blackmail of intimidators and manipulators.
Right. Well, let's stay with that theme.
It is the turn of Nigerians,
right,
and Nigerians will vote wisely for P2B.
Let's stay with that theme, because the issue here, beyond whether or not he's been tarred by the brush of corruption or irregularities or whatever, is this issue here is a question of his judgment. Judgment is absolutely key to being in a preeminent political position, such as that of a president. And the question that's being asked is, Mr. Obi must have known that Mr. Okupe was on trial for these charges and that he could well be convicted, but he still took him as his campaign director general. What does that say about Mr. Obi's judgment?
What is the judgment of a presidential candidate who is a Muslim and who took a Muslim vice presidential candidate?
That's not my question.
No. I'm still trying to tell you.
I'm asking you a direct question about the judgment of your candidate.
Good, excellent, sound. First of all, by law, a man is presumed innocent until proved guilty. Secondly, in the law and constitution I'm quoting, it is only when you commit a crime that is based on dishonesty, corruption, that you are not allowed to hold political offices. You don't go to commit just a traffic crime and somebody will say you won't hold political office. I told you that the judge exonerated 100% by the judgment of the court.
Well, he couldn't have exonerated him. He convicted.
No, that's why I'm telling you that he exonerated him from dishonesty, from corruption, from misapplication and misappropriation of funds. That is the judgment of the court, and you will take time to read it.
Yeah, but the judgment
the judge was
court
explicit,
is very clear
that
he's
he
convicted
accepted
of an offense.
money. Good, that he accepted money in excess of the limitation of the law. That is all, and it was not even by his own making. He was given money. The offense is that when you make or accept. Haven't you asked yourself, why is it that the person that made that payment to him has not been prosecuted? Can you help me with the answer?
Why is it that what, sorry?
The person that made the payment to him has not been prosecuted.
Well, I mean, Dasuki was, he went through all the rigmarole
No.
of the legal rigmarole, didn't he? You know,
has he been found guilty?
He went through a lot of things.
Good. You know why I brought this? For you to understand the injustice of the APC and the PDP in the dispensation of justice. You are taking one arm who received unknowingly, and you're saying he's guilty, and the person that gave, you did not even contemplate prosecuting him. What kind of leadership is that? What kind of injustice is that? In Labour Party, it would not happen. Take my words for it. This is a new Nigeria we're fighting for. I'll give you one word. A sin against my principle personally will be forgiven. He's a philosopher. But a sin against the emergence of a new Nigeria, free of corruption, free of insecurity, free of poverty, free of bad leadership in 2023 will not be forgiven. It will be roundly fought and defeated. We're having problems in this country, not because of the violence of the bad people, but because of the silence of the good ones. Enough. We are not going to keep silent. Professor Wole Soyinka made it clear that the man died in the man who keeps silent in terms of moral crisis. That is why our nation is dying. Fela Nicola Pukuti said suffering and smiling. Nigerians have been suffering, they will no longer smile in 2023.
Right, okay. Well, let's move away from the Doyin Okupe debacle. Let's look at the other issues in this election period, because the campaign is about to reach its peak, probably immediately after the Christmas and New Year break. Where do you see things standing at the moment with the Labour Party's presidential campaign and the P2B movement?
Our chances have never been this brighter. I was personally involved. When we went to Benin City, it was locked down, it was shut down. And do you know the funny thing? None of those people is bought. Do you know the next funny thing? They will wait from morning till night before His Excellency reached the venue in Benin City. It was already night, visibly dark. But they were still there, yearning to catch a glimpse of him. When we went to Owerri, shut down. Aba, shut down. Inuyo, oh my goodness. Inuyo, the PDP presidential candidate, kicked off his campaign and they were singing Obi Kere Renke right in front of him. Whether you talk about South-South, whether you talk about North-Central, whether you talk about South-East, they are all locked down for Obi. Northwest, Northeast are moving graciously towards him. The youths, the aged, who would not move towards him? Do you think the North is not tired of being buffeted with kidnapping, terrorism, banditry? Do you think that the North, that has the highest arable land almost around the world, with the largest land mass, and yet they cannot go to their farms to feed their family, do you think they are not tired? They are tired of this leadership. They want a new thing. Obi has promised them security, farmers going back to the farm. He has promised them that they are going to have their own share of the cattle economy, exploration of it, which is in billions of dollars around the world. Promised them Marshall Plan for education, and the other people are feeding them with religion and ethnic jingo, bigotry. I tell you something. Obi is the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because Nigerians are tired of where they are and they want a new thing.
What about the issues of violence and attacks, which the Labour Party appears to have been battered with recently? I mean, how much does that compound your worries going into this ballot?
What do you expect from a party that put as their presidential candidate a man who say fight for power at all costs? Snatch it, grab it, run away with it. What do you expect from them? It's unfortunate that in Kaduna State, the governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, who boasted that he has the first mechanized division of the Nigerian army in Kaduna and other headquarters of paramilitary government, and that he can arrest P2B just because he came into Kaduna State to deliver a speech. That was the only offense he committed. Then he could not arrest the assassins of the women leader, Labour Party women leader, that was assassinated, politically motivated. He could not arrest those people. All the terrorists, kidnappers that have been buffeting Kaduna State, he could not arrest them with all the paraphernalia of military presence which he has publicly boasted he has. But he wants to arrest a man who his only offense is that he's going to be the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's a shame.
Well, to be fair, I don't think it was said in quite that context.
Whatever context you want to interpret it in,
you've got to put it in a much more politicized context.
You know what? You should understand that APC has been very incoherent in everything they are doing. Even the interpreters of sign language can no longer interpret the words of their presidential candidate. So whatever it is, whenever a man is talking, I have the right to interpret it in whatever context I choose.
I like
and
that.
El-Rufai should arrest the people that have assassinated the Labour Party women leader in Kaduna State. If you don't, you can't end impunity. Now, look at assassinations. After that, 20 people were just killed in almost the same local government that the women leader was assassinated in Kaduna State. Nothing. The APC government has failed, both at the national level and at the sub-national level.
Yeah, but to be
fair,
what
they do to terrorists?
APC supporters
they give them
have
titles.
also been recently killed. I mean, that's a fact. It's just literally, it's just happened within the last few days. APC supporters have also been killed in the southeast. So the honest truth is that it's not entirely as cut and dry. I mean, I agree that it doesn't matter who it is.
No.
A failure
I would want you to give me
of security is a failure
examples.
of security.
Now,
that's
the federal government has monopoly to the issue of security in Nigeria.
True.
And they have the onerous task of making sure that the security and welfare of the people should be their primary concern according to the Constitution. So if security has failed, as you know it has failed, that is still a testimony of the incompetence, of the incapability of the APC government. But you know one thing, the one that's really, that gives me goose pimples, is that under the APC government, terrorists are given chieftaincy titles. Terrorists come openly to grant interviews to national and international press. Terrorists are given money in order to release their captives in a government that prides itself, that has the most powerful military in Black Africa, in a government that you have the best of men, the best of materials, the best of money, and you cannot just combine, utilize, and allocate these to effect the welfare of your people. This APC government has become an anathema to the Nigerian society, and in saner climb, they ought not to even be campaigning. What are you campaigning on? 1,000 naira to $1? What are you campaigning on? That insecurity is no longer available? Haven't you seen Akeredolu as a governor of APC raising his hand and crying with his white birds that his party has failed the people in security? 40 persons massacred in a church. The massacre in an APC government does not even respect mosques and churches anymore. 71 months cumulative between PDP and APC. ASU has been at home. Children are no longer educated. They have taken to crime as a pastime. This is the same Nigeria that was regarded as the safest heaven around the world. These two parties, I think they should just confess to the Almighty God that they have failed, because they have exceeded the level of crime. They are now committing sin against Nigerians.
Well, I've got one more question for you. Sadly, we would have to end the interview, but you just returned to Nigeria from the UK.
Yes.
What sense did you get of the support your presidential candidate Peter Obi enjoys amongst Nigerians living abroad?
You know what I'll tell you?
At the risk of getting a predictable answer.
Well, you may be shocked. One thing I noticed, and I'm going to be very honest, members of APC and PDP, all in diaspora, have made up their mind that whatever is their opinion in the subnational and other elections, that they are going to unanimously vote for Peter Obi in the position of the presidency. And I say this as a matter of,
in other words, they're going to come
honor.
back to Nigeria to vote.
All of them that will come back will come back. Those that will not come back will influence their family with a standing order that all of them must vote for Obi, especially after the debacle, the disgrace of the Chatham House, where they came expecting to hear from a presidential candidate, and he was sharing questions. After sharing Nigerian money, you now went internationally to share questions, because he just could not answer any question. After that disgrace, APC was dead for them at the presidential candidate level. Then the PDP, obviously, after the arrest, prosecution of his friend in the United States, William Jefferson, he ran away from the United States. And since then, he relocated to Dubai. He's not a resident of Nigeria. He's simply a citizen of Nigeria. He's a resident of Dubai. So after such international molestation of our collective psyche, all the people in diaspora have made up their mind that P2B should not only be supported, be encouraged at all costs.
Right.
And here in Nigeria, the trajectory is the same.
Okay. Well, we